Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good afternoon. It's lovely to have everyone joining us. I'm going to be slightly slow with the introduction so that we can make sure that everybody's able to join and we don't miss anybody at the beginning. So we're here, but we're just going to give it a few seconds if that's all right, and then we will get going. Okay. I think we'll start because we're very grateful for your time and we appreciate it's Thursday afternoon. So let's get going. But before I start, let's say Happy National School Governor Awareness Day. I hope you've all had a good day. I'm sure, like us, you've seen lots on social media, and it really is very, very great to be able to see so many people getting involved and all of the great work that everybody's doing. So welcome. Um, Very quickly, let's do some introductions. My name is Rebecca, and I'm one of the senior recruitment managers at Governors for Schools. I'm very pleased to be joined by my lovely colleague Enya Battersby. Between us, we run the Chair Recruitment section of Governors for Schools, so hopefully we're well placed to be able to be leading on this webinar today. I'd also like to say a big thank you to our colleague Emma, who is in the background, but she's going to be managing the Q&A and chat functions. And hopefully there won't be any technical difficulties, but if there are, then she'll be there to help us out. You've joined us this afternoon, and I'm sure you know why, for our session on chair recruitment. Today's webinar is about strong leadership at a board level, and we are particularly focusing on the chair of governor role today and how critical it is in shaping effective governance. And I think you'll all agree this is something that has never been more important than it is right now. So let's move on. I'm sure most of you hopefully are familiar with Governors for Schools, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about us as a charity, but just in case, we specialise in the recruitment of governors and trustees. It's crazy, but we've been working in England for 26 years now to improve education through effective governance. And we launched our service in Wales in November 2020. And we also launched, you'll see a new logo on the screen if you're on the slide, if you've got eagle eyes, and you'll see that we launched our FE Governor service last year. So we continue to build on our legacy, and we're very proud of everything that we've achieved and continue to do in the sector. I thought that right now it would be good to set out the expectations of the webinar, and I hope that these are aligned with what you're expecting to hear today. We're going to split it into three sections, essentially. The first section is going to be what effective chairing looks like in practice today. So both Enya and I speak to schools and trusts on a daily basis about what they need in their next chair, and we love to hear stories about effective chairing and what makes a really successful chair in their eyes. So we have put together some of that information today that we're really happy to be sharing with you. The second section, we're going to look at the risks and the realities of having either a current chair vacancy or one that you know is just around the corner. And again, don't worry, we speak to schools in a variety of situations, and we're happy to share our experience on that today. And then we are going to end the webinar by looking at how Governors for Schools supports boards to identify and appoint the right leader for their setting. So whether you're planning ahead or you're dealing with an immediate vacancy, our aim is that hopefully today you're going to leave with some clear guidance and practical next steps. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I probably should have done it earlier, but we're going to leave some time at the end for questions. There is a Q&A function. There's also a chat function. If you could ideally put your questions in the Q&A, that would be great. If we get lots of the same question, it may be that we'll save it for the end, or Emma will answer them as we go along. We'd like it to be a two-way event insofar as we can, so please feel free to share those questions in the Q&A with us, because we would be delighted to hear your situations and be able to help you if we can. The slides will be shared at some point after the webinar, so we'll have our lovely Marcoms team to thank for that. And just so you know, the session is being recorded. Okay, I think I've covered everything. If not, hopefully one of my colleagues will let me know. And so let's get started. We're going to look, first of all, at why governing boards need strong leadership right now. We know that the climate's changing. We know that we're all under lots of pressures. So let's explore that very briefly at the start. Across the education system, boards are facing increasing complexity. There's, without doubt, greater accountability. We know firsthand that there's tighter resources, and we know that there's more pressure to support and challenge school leaders effectively. This means that the chair role is absolutely pivotal, and we understand that. We think, or we know, that when board leadership is strong, governance is really a real asset. But when the governance isn't strong, or when there's a gap, the impact can be felt very quickly and very deeply. We speak with schools on a daily basis who are looking for chairs, and all of them speak about the increase in complaints they're having to navigate, the increase in pressure, and how it's more important to them than ever to get the chair appointment right. And this is really important. They need to get it right first time. And we hope that some of the information that we're going to share today is going to enable you to do that. So what does effective chairing look like? We have put together a list of 6 different bullet points, but I'd like to say from the very beginning that this is not exhaustive. And we've put this together based on our experience from our conversations and our relationships that we've built up with schools across England. So please take it as a guide, but there's probably many more that we've not included. But the first thing, in terms of an effective chair, we believe that they keep the board focused on the right things. So what does this mean? We think it means that agendas are purposeful and they're not overloaded. It means that meetings focus on strategy and that really important thing, not that operational detail. It means that governors leave meetings knowing what was decided, understanding why, and they know what's going to happen next. Okay, an effective chair, we believe, builds a strong, respectful partnership with the head teacher. This crops up time and time again. It means that the chair of governors has regular and honest check-ins with the head, but they don't do those check-ins just before a meeting's about to take place. They're in the diary and they're expected. It means that the chair has a willingness to challenge privately, this is important, but that they're able to support the head publicly with clear boundaries. And what's really important, we think, is that an effective chair supports, but without the interference. Okay, the third one on the list is we believe that a great chair creates a culture of constructive challenge. And we think this is amazing, that a great chair can create an environment where governors are encouraged to ask those hard questions, but they feel that they can do it without the anxiety, without the fear, without the hostility. And an effective chair will step in if things become unproductive or personal. This might sound a bit like common sense, but an effective chair will run effective meetings. And so what does that mean? We think it means that they start and finish on time, and that they're inclusive. So we all know there's going to be quiet voices around that table, and a great chair is going to be able to draw those quiet voices in, but at the same time, they're going to be diplomatically able to manage those dominant voices. And they'll end those meetings, or they'll continue through those meetings by summarising decisions and actions clearly. Another point we think highlights an effective chair is that they take safeguarding and compliance seriously. And they do this by having it as a standing priority rather than just a tick box exercise. They'll follow up on actions, they'll address concerns rigorously, they'll know when to escalate concerns, and they'll seek external advice. And the last one we've got is that they will develop the board, not just lead it. A great chair, and we're all for this, will identify skills gaps and they'll recruit to fill those skills gaps. They'll encourage training and continuous training, not just something at the very beginning, and make sure that that training is available to everybody. And also, we're really, really big advocates for great induction plans because we think it sets governors up for success from the beginning. And a really great thing an effective chair will do is that they'll mentor the vice chair and future leaders, which means that they're going to be automatically and naturally succession planning. So before I move on, and I understand that was a whistle-stop tour of the things that we've put together, but maybe have a think. If you have a vacancy right now for a chair role, or you know you're going to in the not too distant future, have you considered these things when putting your recruitment requirements together? Right. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Enya, but before I do, and I didn't tell Enya we were going to do this, we do have a poll. It's a very quick poll that I'm hoping Emma's going to launch, because we're interested to know if you're attending this because you've got a vacancy or not. So are we able to share that now? Great. So do you have a chair vacancy at the moment? If you don't mind just making your vote now, it'd be really interesting to see. No judgment here at all. We have conversations, very confidential conversations all of the time, but it's just good for us to know the situation. So brilliant, those votes are coming in. Okay, so it looks like lots of you are succession planning and being prepared, and some of you have got those vacancies, which is understandable, where things happen, and then some of you haven't. So okay, that's really helpful. Hopefully lots of you have participated, and I think, if that's all right, I'm going to stop sharing it now. Okay, brilliant. Okay, Enya's now going to talk about the risks and realities of having those vacancies that we've just asked you about. So I will stop talking and I will hand over to Enya. Thanks, Enya.
Lovely. Thanks, Rebecca. Hello, everybody. So I'm Enya. I work obviously very closely alongside Rebecca, and I lead on the kind of headhunting and finding the right chair for you based on the skills you need and the experience that you need. But I'm going to go through some of the, the major risks and realities of when you have a chair vacancy, how long it's vacant for, and just being prepared in advance. So obviously, the most important one is the kind of loss of that strategic leadership. So obviously the chair, as Rebecca said, they set the tone, they set the direction, they build and cultivate those relationships. So without clear leadership, meetings can lack focus and the strategic oversight can really weaken. And the board can also sometimes drift into maybe looking at operational matters rather than maintaining that strategic scrutiny. And then in addition to that, that kind of goes hand in hand is accountability changes, so reduced accountability. Obviously the chair holds the head teacher to account and continues to cultivate that strong relationship, and obviously a chair vacancy can definitely weaken the performance management aspect, maybe appraisals depending on the structure that you have within your school or your trust, and the challenge that's needed there. And then alongside that, the Ofsted inspections that can obviously, if they look at a prolonged chair vacancy, can maybe be seen as a governance weakness, and so obviously a chair needs to discuss things with Ofsted, and they need to have ideally been in the role for a hot minute to really be able to give an in-depth overview of everything. And then kind of additionally to that, things like decision-making delays. So urgent decisions can maybe be stalled because they need a clear head to lead kind of discussions and coordinate decisions. And obviously things like authority, how to escalate different processes, maybe complaints and crisis responses, safeguarding concerns can become unclear as well. Who delegates, what's going to sit with who, and who's going to make the decisions. And then additionally, committees can kind of lack alignment without central coordination. Obviously, some committees have their own very strong chairs, but it's still having a team effort come together with a strong leader at the centre. Governance fatigue is another thing. I'm sure you've probably heard that phrase a lot amongst your boards in the past, but governance fatigue definitely can take place without a strong chair to maybe empower the governors and really keep them engaged. So governors can become overstretched by covering different duties. So there's the risk of burnout, especially with maybe the vice chair or maybe some of the senior governors and the head teacher as well, without having that partner on the strategic side to support them and challenge them. And obviously talented governors can then disengage and maybe resign from the role early, which leaves the board in a more unpredictable situation. So having a chair definitely covers a lot of those bases. It can also potentially lead to the loss of external relationships. So maybe, as people have been saying in the comments, the relationship with the governance professional and how often they need to communicate and how vital the governance professional is to that journey for the chair. And as well as that, maybe the local authority, the trust boards, community partners, parents, things like that can all change as well. So yeah, a gap can definitely weaken relationships at a strategic level. So kind of what chairs can do in the interim. Obviously, succession planning is something that we definitely recommend. So that reduces the risks and obviously strengthens the board overall. So a continuity of leadership and handovers and actual detailed transitions, smooth transitions, if the chair does leave unexpectedly, is really important. And obviously it maintains stability during inspections or maybe financial reviews, head teacher appraisals, various things like that that can take place. And obviously succession planning, looking at risk mitigation, reduces the single point of failure risk and things like that, but also ensures that there's knowledge that's being transferred. So whether it's maybe policies, relationships, or ongoing issues, having that succession plan and a really detailed training and onboarding period with the current chair, ideally before they leave, is definitely ideal in that situation. And obviously leadership development. So maybe a vice chair who's been in the role a while can step into that chair role and be supported by the rest of the board and the trust or school as well. Improved governance maturity. So it obviously demonstrates, forward thinking, forward planning, a lot of professionalism to be prepared for a chair stepping down. Even if your chair promises to be in the role for the next 4 years, we don't always know that, definitely. So it's always good to just have that on the back burner, just in case it does happen. And again, having a strong vice chair can definitely be, supportive as well for that. And it encourages, structured kind of talent identification, mentoring. If there's somebody you think, with a bit of support, they could be a great chair in a couple of years. Start supporting them with maybe attending conferences or different training online and things like that can really build their confidence with the view for them to take on the chair role in the future. Stronger strategic capacity. So it enables planned transitions rather than reactive appointments, getting somebody to come into maybe a messy or challenging situation where a lot needs fixing straight away, rather than a gradual kind of shadowing into the role. And obviously, alongside that, increased governor retention. So having a strong chair who's well prepared when they join a board keeps the rest of the governors engaged, and then ideally keeps everyone committed to the same goal overall and the same passion for wanting the school to improve. So governors will be able to see opportunities develop, contribute at higher levels if they want to, but also step into maybe committee roles or link governor roles and look at safeguarding and send and things like that maybe they hadn't considered before, but they've got a great strong chair that's empowering them to want to learn and do something new. So obviously the kind of practical succession planning actions that we recommend is definitely having a formal vice chair role, maybe a committee chair as well that might be prepared to step in and have some shadowing responsibilities if needed. We recommend an annual review of the chair tenure, future intentions, things like that. A skills audit is also definitely needed for a governing board. With the new chair, what skill would you like? What skills missing? Obviously, everyone, leadership skills are definitely a must, but what other skills you need? Is it HR? Is it legal and compliance? Whatever you need, that's kind of what we're there for to help you find. And also kind of documented descriptions of chair roles. I work with a lot of great trusts who have very detailed documents of breaking down the remits and responsibilities. Scheme of delegations are really helpful things that we look through to make sure that our candidates are very well prepared and they know what decision-making processes look like within schools and trusts. And obviously, emergency interim arrangements as well within the school or trust. So who will step in at the last minute if a chair is unwell or has to step down due to unforeseen circumstances. Having somebody who's confident and prepared on the back burner, ready to go, will definitely help with any unmitigated circumstances. Then obviously leadership mentoring and kind of additional governance training as well is definitely recommended. So maybe a governor who currently doesn't feel confident being chair, but again, you could see them being a really strong one in the next couple of years, being able to succession plan in that regard, keeps everyone knows each other. They may have a relationship with the head already and they know the other governors and the aims of the school and the community. But obviously not everybody can have an internal chair that steps up. So looking external is also, how we support as well. So those are just the kind of the main points that we would recommend for looking at succession planning. Is the next slide me? I think it is.
No, it's me.
You. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Okay, thank you, Enya. That was really helpful. We know that we're whizzing through them, but if anyone has any questions, don't forget to put them in, or feel free to contact us after the webinar. We'll share details later. Okay, we're into the third part of the webinar now, which is how governors for schools, let's get the name right, can support you with finding the right chair of governors. We're rightly proud of our Chair Recruitment Service. I think both Enya and I can't stop smiling when we talk about what we've been able to achieve over the last couple of years, because in September 2023, we launched the dedicated Chair Recruitment Service because we knew that we needed a new approach to finding the right people to fill the chair vacancies that we were supporting. We could no longer rely on the right calibre of volunteer applying organically to the roles. And so we decided that we needed to have a much more proactive approach. And that's what we've created. So in a nutshell, we essentially go out and on your behalf, we target and headhunt the right volunteers to become chairs of governors. We're not just a headhunting service, though. We want to be much more than that. We want to be your recruitment partner. We want to understand the makeup of your board, the mix of personalities that you've got on that board, and the type of person that the head teacher works well with. We want to know more about your school. What makes it special? What are the challenges? And let's face it, these are difficult ones to divulge, but particularly with a chair of governor role, we are passionate about ensuring that we are very transparent with volunteers that we are sending towards these roles. And we think it's only fair if there are challenges on that board or there are challenges within that school that we share them with the potential volunteers so that they're able to know and take that into account when they are making their decision. And we want to also, sorry, I sort of interjected a bit there, but we also want to understand the type of person you need. And that's not just in terms of skills and experiences, it's also in terms of soft skills too. We're a big believer in those. And then in return, we want you to trust us to understand your board and to go out and represent you in the very best way to potential volunteers. You'll hear more from Enya shortly about the information that we provide candidates with. I know she's touched upon it in the previous slide, but this is so that those volunteers can make an informed decision about whether they can meet the level of commitment needed for the role and if that role's right for them. We know how important it is that the appointment is right. So we take this responsibility really seriously. There's no point in us finding someone who looks amazing on paper, but who can't dedicate the time and the energy needed to perform the role to the very best level. So this approach that we've created to chair recruitment has given us the opportunity, without doubt, to speak to a much bigger pool of potential volunteers than we've ever had before. And it really is a privilege. We've helped to fill hundreds of chair of governor vacancies through the service, whether that be, I use this often, for a maintained school in rural Cornwall, which when we first got the requirements, we weren't sure we were going to be able to achieve it, but we did, or an inner city school, academy school in the centre of London. We can adapt our recruitment styles to suit your board. And because it is a bespoke and targeted service, you can be very specific in terms of the type of person you want us to find. And we'll do our very best to try that. And if we're not successful in terms of those requirements, we'll come back to you and ask if there's any flexibility. Is there some movement that we can then go ahead and do another search? So our most current data shows that we've successfully filled 89% of the chair roles that signed up to the service last academic year, which I think is a really, really great achievement. And one of the things that we get asked all the time, and I must say we don't have a crystal ball, but it's about timescales. And it's really difficult for us to say because it does come down to lots of factors, such as the location of your school, if you need very specific skills. But I've looked at our most recent data and it's showing that it's taken on average 5 weeks for us to be able to submit the details of the first candidate to the school. So in that time, I can assure you that Enya is very, very busy reaching out to lots of potential volunteers before she even gets the chance to meet with them. So please just note that 5 weeks, it's an average, it does change, and it does depend on a number of factors. But hopefully it helps if people are going to ask you, how long is it going to take Governors for Schools to help us fill the role? And one last thing that I'd just like to point out, and hopefully you know this, it's a paid for service, but we don't charge you until the volunteer that we found for you has been through your recruitment process, has been offered the role and accepts it. We just ask you keep us and the volunteer will you communicate with us and the volunteer throughout the process so everybody knows where we are? Okay, it's very easy for me to wax lyrical about the service. We do ask schools that use the service to provide us with feedback, and I could have shared lots of testimonials with you, but I just thought I'd share this one. It was given to us by a chair of governors who contacted us, and she'd been a chair for 8 years, and it was time for her to step down, and she was really struggling to fill the role. And as you can see, she said the whole process was so easy and a huge weight taken off me. I believe without Governors for Schools assistance, we would still be looking for my replacement. And I think there's a few points about that we're really proud about. We've been running the service for a while now, and we're constantly looking at ways to improve it so that the process is as smooth as possible for the schools we work with. And we know it takes a lot of time and resources. It takes us a lot of time and resources as well. And we feel a great amount of pride when schools are able to admit that maybe they wouldn't have been able to fill the role themselves, but that we've been able to do it for them, and we've saved them lots of time and lots of stress. And we know that we're delivering what we promise that we'll deliver. If you want to see any more testimonials, if you need us to share any more, feel free to get in touch. But without much further ado, I'm going to hand back over to Enya. Enya is the person who takes the information that we ask you to provide us in terms of who you're looking for. She uses that information to create a brief, and she goes out and makes contact with candidates. So I would say that Enya really is at the coalface of managing volunteers and the recruitment process. I should point out that for some of the roles that we've worked on throughout the 2.5 years we've been running the service, Enya has contacted for some roles, well over 100 or 150 potential volunteers until she's found one that she has a meeting with. So it's very labour intensive. It does take a lot of resources, but I believe that this is what we do best. So Enya, over to you.
Thank you, you're making me blush. So I'm going to kind of go through the way that I'll work to kind of find out the right person for you. So within the Chair Recruitment Service, we, as Rebecca said, very much work hard to find the right candidate for the board, the soft skills, the hard skills, the personality types, and also helping with the diversity of the board as well. So we do advise, obviously, do a skills audit and see, what skills would be the most beneficial. And we'll find someone with those kind of fresh skills and the leadership abilities that the board needs. We obviously share vacancy information with candidates that we're kind of going into detail about meeting structures, current challenges, any additional responsibilities, whether it's maybe an ad hoc panel or head teacher appraisals or attending awards evenings, and maybe some of the fun community side of things. We like to give as much info as we can so they really know how much time the role will be, and they can ensure it aligns well with them. Our main aim is we don't want to fill this role quickly and have someone resign immediately because it's too much work for them. We want to give you someone really prepared who's going to give you the passion, dedication and energy that the school deserves. So we send additional things as well, like previous Ofsted reports, performance data, financial benchmarking, and as I said before, things like scheme of delegation is really handy. If you have any other internal documents that you think would be beneficial for us to share with candidates, maybe a brief overview of your school improvement plan, or a detailed kind of brief of the chair role, maybe written by the current chair or the head or somebody else on the board, is really handy for making sure people are prepared. So obviously by preparing them and allowing them to look at the details, it just ensures that we really appoint engaged and well-equipped people to take on the role. We find that transparency is really vital to finding the right person. So I know that sometimes things need to be sugar-coated, but we do advise you to be honest about the challenges at the school, what issues there are on the board, and maybe also why you've struggled to fill the role internally, why have maybe some of the governors not wanted to take on the chair role. Those are some of the questions we get quite a lot from external kind of sources that we source for you. So those questions are also handy. We also like to know, how long's the head been there for? Are they nice and settled? Are they quite new? Do you need a really experienced chair? Are you open to somebody who's maybe been, a board of a corporate board or a charity board, but hasn't been a governor but can bring the leadership? Whatever you want, we can align our outreach for you. So we very much advocate for the candidates to visit the school, meet the head teacher, meet the head if they're still there, maybe the interim, not the head, the head and the interim chair or the current chair, and also attend a governor meeting as an observer. So that's a really great way for them to sit back and see, okay, what are the current discussions taking place? Which governors seem engaged? Have they, some of them, have they read the agenda? And there's always one that maybe hasn't, gone into as much detail as they should have. Getting a feel for the people that are on the board, rather than just looking at data and numbers on a sheet, but actually feeling the community coming together and observing, how does the current chair run things? Is there anything that they'd do differently? And what would their maybe shadowing and handover look like there? And it just ensures that they have clarity on the details of what the role entails, and they get to know all of the various people that they'll be forming professional relationships with. And then after the appointment, the support is ongoing. So we have the iGov's chair mentorship, which is really handy. They can get best practice support, they can get guidance and advice, signposting to relevant information, any changes within the education sector that they need to be aware of. For example, I know that one of our mentors has been supporting somebody with understanding the new Ofsted framework, so that's been really handy. And then all of our volunteers also will have access to the e-learning modules we provide and various webinars and newsletters that we have as well throughout the term. And we also provide them with Governor Hub for the first 12 months in the role. I know a lot of trusts and schools already use it, so they'll get it in addition. They don't have to use our login, they can use yours internally, whatever you'd prefer. But if you don't, it's just handy to know that that's an additional thing they can access for articles and maybe, access to additional information and schools that have undergone the same challenges and have got through it, and maybe access some advice. We do advise, obviously, that handovers are provided by the previous chair, but we do understand that there may be cases where the chair's left quite suddenly and the school or trust maybe need to step in to help the new chair settle in and support the board during the transition. So obviously, you wouldn't hire an employee without giving them a handover or some training. So, make sure you do the same for the volunteers who really do want to give, their free time and their skills and energy to support you, which is why, succession planning is so vital. As I said before, we don't want them to just fill a seat and realise it's too much and then resign immediately. We want them to feel supported and build their confidence so they can really hit the ground running and do what you want them to do, come into the role and lead with confidence. Obviously, even better, if the handover period, can't take place or will take place, but maybe even an opportunity to shadow. If your chair is going to be coming to the end of their term in a couple of months, shadowing them would be really handy for them to really look at all of the various responsibilities the chair has, whether it's how often they meet with the head and what kind of discussions take place, or how they communicate with the parents and the local community, or feeding back to the trust, things like that. It allows them to learn before taking on the role. So it means that when they do start as chair, flying solo, they're really prepared for what needs to take place and what their responsibilities are. So that's kind of an overview of the work that we do to find the chairs. But it's very much headhunting and finding the right individual, providing them with as much information as they need. I answer a million different questions on a weekly basis, but what we do is we've cultivated over time that the service has existed. We've kind of tweaked things here and there to consistently improve, to make sure that we get all of the info from you early on, so that volunteers are prepared and can really consider it in detail and do their due diligence, which is a mouthful. And so I think the next slide is mine.
It is.
Lovely. Wonderful. So as obviously part of the headhunting and looking at your needs, obviously, we very much aim to make boards representative. So we aim to find volunteers with the right skills, but also to ensure that the boards are representative of the school community. So we're very successful engaging a wide range of individuals from different backgrounds. So as you can see, some of the data on the screen, we've had a really great success rate getting quite young chair of governors. We've got quite a great success rate with kind of having governors who have obviously, been in maybe corporate settings, charity settings, educationalists, people who've maybe worked within trusts and seen, SATs join to MATs and transitions from LA schools to trust schools. So whatever you need, that's what we can, aim to find for you. As I said before, I've appointed chairs who have started their own company and been board leaders all over the world, to teachers who've transitioned to be deputy head and really want to take on a strategic role, so becoming chair and bringing that educationalist knowledge. So the one thing I love about my job is that I get to speak to such a broad array of people all over the country, who all have different backgrounds and passions, but at the end of the day, they all just want to give back to a school in their area. They don't, they're not parents, they don't know anyone at the school, but they actually just want to use the skills that they've cultivated over their career, to make the school a better place for everybody. Obviously, by having a diverse board, we know that obviously it makes better decision making overall. So it is, it gives the board the ability to look at a wide range of perspectives, challenge assumptions as well, which is really important. Avoid that kind of group thinking that can sometimes happen, and just ensures that kind of conversations and decisions are more robust and balanced, and also is reflective of what the school community needs, not just the students but the staff as well, and the local community. So obviously in a school context, it obviously kind of improves things like curriculum oversight, safeguarding, scrutiny, inclusion strategies, budgets. So obviously if a board is made up with similar backgrounds, professions and social networks, they're going to be more blind spots. By having a diverse board, you're going to be covering more bases and having individuals with different perceptions of different faith needs, send needs, family structures, maybe somebody with child care experience, being a young carer, and understanding just a variety of different backgrounds and what maybe be attainment issues, what's causing attainment gaps, and how can we really support and advocate different student groups that may be struggling. Obviously that kind of leads into the improved just equity and inclusion. Obviously equality is important, but equity very much, in my opinion, sometimes more so. So having that equity and inclusion oversight is really vital for governors. So that can close attainment gaps, it can monitor exclusions, ensure that there's fair admissions, really make sure that the send provisions are as strong as they should be, oversee safeguarding, and diverse boards are much better positioned to ask informed questions that don't have maybe any bias, or maybe to actually learn more about potential bias within the school, identify structural inequalities, and also challenge the maybe disproportionate outcomes, especially in regards to maybe disability, race, gender, and kind of social disadvantage. So the more diverse backgrounds, the better. Obviously, in terms of broader skills and expertise in the professional kind of dynamic, having diversity also includes access to skills that maybe you don't have. So healthcare, community work, fundraising, finance and HR, as well as educationists and people with maybe education sector backgrounds, and also having a variety of different ages and career stages. We do a lot of work. My colleague Emma, who's on the call as well, she does a great amount of work with young governors. So we have a really good focus on getting younger people into governor roles, to bring that perspective. And then you've got people who are retired and sick of gardening and golfing and want to get back onto a board and give back. So having that dynamic is a really beautiful thing on boards, and is needed to really have the diverse perspectives to make those positive changes, and lived experience as well. So you may have somebody who hasn't been in work for a while, they've been a stay-at-home mum, but the things that they've learned and the skills they've cultivated there can still actually make them a great leader. And so think carefully about the hard skills you need, but also just think about what kind of lived experience and background would be really beneficial to really advocate for your students and your school community. Some of the risks of not prioritizing diversity, as I said, is maybe groupthink, weak challenging, some blind spots, a disconnection from parents and the local community, which can maybe lead to reputational damage as well, and the failure to identify disproportionate outcomes too. So in our opinion, what good practice looks like is to, obviously for a strong board, to conduct regular skills and diversity audits, advertise vacancies widely. So don't just rely on word of mouth, come to us as well and we can advertise that much widely for you, and also remove unnecessary barriers. So maybe unclear time commitments, or if you're struggling to get governors and your board meets at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but that there's so many people who are willing to help but they're not free until 5 o'clock, that can really expand the amount of people who are willing to join as a chair, as a governor, and really give back. And obviously it also kind of creates inclusive meeting cultures, and also for the volunteers themselves, it enables them to meet individuals they may have never passed in any other walk of life. So it's also a networking opportunity for them to come together as a group and make those important decisions. So we very much prioritise what you need, but definitely keep in the back of your mind, actually, other than skills, what kind of individual would be beneficial for us, and what kind of leadership style too. Leadership is not black and white, it is a beautiful spectrum. So what kind of leader? Some schools need a soft leader who will have a really gentle approach to challenging the head, and others need really firm challenge. So what relationships and the dynamics would you like, also comes into play, which is why we very much appreciate as much info as you can give us early on is very handy for us going forwards, and Rebecca would agree. But yeah, that's a nice overview of some of the work that we do to find the right person, and obviously some of the things that we hold closely when looking for the right person for you. And I'll hand back to Rebecca now.
Brilliant, Anya, that was great. I hope it was helpful for everybody. Thank you for sharing your experience. So we've come to the end of the webinar, and I've been looking at the watch to make sure that we didn't overrun, which is great. We've got 5 more minutes left until the webinar will end, and we have had some questions that have come in, some of which we've answered. So if you have anything that you'd like answered, we've still got 5 minutes to answer it, but we will look through. And maybe, Enya, are you looking at them as well? Can you help with some of the answers?
Having a load.
We've got a couple of people who seem really interested in the kind of skills that you need to be a really effective chair, and hopefully that particularly kind of the session that the bit that Enya's just delivered really shows how important it is that actually schools are really looking for a range of things. So there is no kind of one set. Actually, there's so much that you can bring to it, and actually one of the strengths of working with the Chair Recruitment Service is finding the right person for the right school. So please don't feel like it's just a short kind of checklist. So I think that's really helpful. There's been a really interesting question that also relates to kind of accessibility and recruitment, I think, coming from Mel. So thank you, Mel. What are your thoughts on hybrid chairing or meetings in order to support recruitment?
Do you want to take this?
I can take that, yeah.
Yeah.
I personally find that we get a much greater response rate when it's a hybrid approach. I think it's nice to have flexibility for people who have childcare responsibilities, their own career, and especially during the winter months when it's a bit miserable and cold. Not everyone wants to go to the school in the snow and dark in winter for your maybe November, December meeting. So having a hybrid approach can be really handy. I've worked with quite a lot of schools who fluctuate. So, you know, rather than having some governors in person at the same time as a laptop with some at home, they have a fluctuation of everyone in person, then the next meeting everyone's online, and that seems to work really well for a lot of schools, especially since COVID. Response rates for hybrid roles are a little bit higher, I would say, than schools that are always in person, but we always do advertise to chairs that being in person and seeing the school in action is very important. Having meetings with the head in person as well, walking through the school, is important too. So we still obviously say to governors, you know, you may be doing monitoring visits throughout the year, which cannot be remote. You need to see the pupils in action, the school in action. You can't just rely on paperwork and data. The humans are the reason we do this. The humans are the reason we're passionate about school governance, is wanting to improve things for people. And so that's definitely important as well. But obviously some schools have different approaches, and we can find people who meet your needs. If you're in person only, then that's fine as well. Plenty of the roles that I fill are in person only, and we find the right people who have the time to do that. So yeah, that's no worries at all.
And sorry if I just interject, I am mindful of time, but when I meet with schools who are exploring whether they want to use the service or not, I always say maybe have a list of things that you absolutely aren't prepared to negotiate on. But if there are other things that could be nice to have rather than essential, it is going to open up the pool of people that we're able to speak to. And, you know, with the greatest will in the world, we don't have queues and queues of people wanting to be chairs of governors. Maybe one day that will be the dream, but we don't at the moment. So it is about trying to have some flexibility so that we are able to present you with candidates that can do the job. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Right.
I think it's okay. There was a question just around the pricing, and I wonder if that would be really helpful to clarify for everybody.
That will be. I did see it in the box actually. It is per appointment. So it is to do with the annual budget of the school. If the annual budget of the school is less than 2.5 million, we will charge £795 plus VAT. But that's on appointment. If the budget is greater than 2.5 million, then we will charge £995 plus VAT. I would just say that we do try and keep the costs as low as we can, but we are a charity. We do rely on the income in order for us to be sustainable. And based on the amount of work that we are doing, I can promise you it is very good value for money.
Yes, and just to touch on that as well, obviously, if someone's appointed and you've paid, and then they step down within 6 months, we'll fill it again for you with no extra charge. So you don't have to worry about, will we get a refund if they step down, anything like that. We'll always be here to find somebody else for you as quickly as possible.
Okay, I'm just aware of the time. We've got 1 minute to go. So are there other questions, Emma, that we can answer now?
I think it will be a nice straightforward one. Are you able to support schools who want to have a co-chair model?
Yeah,
There's quite a few who do, yeah. It seems to work quite well for some schools.
you get two lots of skills together. So you can have two lots of expertise together, working well together.
Fantastic, thank you. Maybe one last one, if we can squeeze in. Do you limit your recruitment search to only people who have been governors previously?
I mean, I think we have to be really quick. It is to do with what the school wants. Some schools categorically want the person we find to have been a governor before. Others will consider maybe they've chaired in a different capacity within work, or I don't know, within a society outside of work. So it does depend on the school, and we really will work to what that school needs to for the board to be successful and effective.
I've just put my email in the webinar chat box as well. So if there's any questions that haven't been answered and you want the answer, just drop us an email and we'll get back to you.
Yeah. So very quickly, I'm aware of the time. Just to let you know that we do have a promotion running at the moment. If you did want to sign up to this Chair Recruitment Service, if you quote NSGAD NUSGAD, then we will give you a 10% discount. And Enya's put her email address in there, but you can also contact the team as a whole, recruitment.service@governorsforschools.org.uk. There is a post-webinar survey. If you could just spare a minute at the end of it to fill it in and give us some feedback, we'd really appreciate it. But I think that's probably where we need to end now. We probably could have carried on for a bit longer. Thank you very much. Really grateful for your time. Thanks for joining us. And hopefully we can work with you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.